show starts right now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio and ESPN News, 250 plus markets across the United States of America. Check your AM, FM listing nearest you, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM Channel 80, plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Lots and lots and lots of stuff to get into today. No question about that. Looking forward to talking about today's show because I was at that Philadelphia-Boston Celtics game last night, watching Joel Embiid drop 37 and 22. Watching Kyrie Irving put on the show as well, but not when it counted most. Lots of stuff going on in the NBA. James Harden absolutely went berserk last night against Memphis, dropping 57, albeit in a loss. Of course, there is when you look at it and you look at Oklahoma City and the way that they're struggling, there's something to look at in regards to that. So definitely we'll discuss that as well. There's some NFL stuff going on, really dissecting even more and more what's happened in Pittsburgh with Big Ben Roethlisberger and how he is looking these days. I'll tell you what's on my mind for the particular moment in time, though. As the NFL draft approaches, I'm getting very, very, very concerned with the kind of stuff that I'm hearing. I really am. I'm getting very concerned about it because when I look at the New York Giants and I'm looking at these workouts and the way that folks have been raving about the workouts that Dwayne Haskins has put forth, I don't understand for the life of me how the Giants are acting like they don't care if they get him or not. Now, they did show up at his pro day. Had executives there, had Coach Pat Shermer there, there's no doubt about it. It could all be a smokescreen. They could be lying through their stinking teeth. But I got to tell you something. If you're the New York Giants, you got to be prepared to move up. I would hope that one of those picks that you acquired in return for Odell Beckham Jr., you would utilize to get a quarterback. Giants have got to draft a quarterback. It's just that simple. I don't even see how this is even an issue. When I look at the New York Giants, what the hell are you going to do? See, to me, you've got Oakland at the 4th pick. You've got Tampa at the 5th pick. It wouldn't shock me at all if either of them decided that, you know what? I'm going to take me Dwayne Haskins. A matter of fact, I would sit up here and tell you right now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers should be first on the list. You got a top 5 pick. You're clearly not sold on Jameis Winston, no matter what you've been bloviating about. And if that's the situation, I would say it's advisable for you to move on. Maybe not from Jameis Winston this year, give an opportunity to show himself, but how do you lose drafting a top-tier quarterback? At the very least, it's going to be an asset for you. At the very least. But if you're the New York Giants, all of this stuff about Eli Manning can still play, Eli Manning can still do this, Eli Manning's got years left in him. Eli Manning couldn't move when he was 30. How the hell you think he's going to do at age 37? So if Eli Manning couldn't move and he's a stationary target, and clearly the athletes going up against him on the defensive side of the ball are bigger, are stronger, are faster, and obviously more mobile than ever before, why in the hell would you want a stationary target approaching age 40 in Eli Manning that's missed the playoffs 6 times in the last 7 years? Why would you do that? It makes absolutely positively no sense. And I'm just looking at some of these quarterbacks that are scheduled to be available. You got this kid Daniel Jones out of Duke. You got Will Gray out of West Virginia. You got Ryan Finley out of North Carolina State. You got Haskins out of Ohio State. You got Kyle Murray out of Oklahoma. You got Drew Lock out of Missouri. I just don't know. I don't know how we could be having a conversation about the Giants not taking a quarterback. I don't know how we could be having that conversation. Haskins is a New Jersey native. I don't understand this. Good size, tremendous arm strength. I was a fool thinking he was a runner because he ran 15 times against Purdue, and other than him and the offense spread out against Michigan State, didn't really watch much of him last season. Till I went back to the tapes and watched the film, and I'm like, damn. Cats like Chris Carter and others were absolutely right. This brother can throw the football. And for those of you wondering who the hell I'm talking about, Chris Carter, even though he's on Fox, he's one of my good friends in this industry. As man speaks football, I listen, period. And I've known him for many, many years. He's a friend and a brother. That's why I listen to him. Even though we have outstanding analysts here at ESPN, from Louis Riddick on down, Ryan Clark, Teddy Bruschi, and so many others. But Chris Carter's my brother. To be quite honest with you, I wish he was still here. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. I'm just saying, if you're Oakland, I don't care what John Gruden has been saying. Mike Mayock as well. It wouldn't shock me at all if they decided to take Haskins. Wouldn't shock me a little bit. Tampa, I think it's a no-brainer for them to take Haskins. And if you're the New York Giants and you feel a need to move up to ensure that you grab Haskins, because he's not going to be grabbed by the 49ers at number 2 because they've got Garoppolo. He's not going to be grabbed by the Jets at number 3 because they've got Sam Darnold. I'm sorry. I would move up. I'd do what it took. And if that means me getting holes in some people's eyes, whatever. I'm telling you, if I'm the New York Giants, I've got to draft a quarterback. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. NCAA tournament has started, for those of you who may not know. All right? Right now on TV, on CBS, it's halftime of a game between Minnesota and Louisville in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Not Rick Pitino, but his son, Richard Pitino, is the coach of the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Obviously, guys, basketball analysts extraordinaires like Jay Billis abhorred the fact that Louisville, a team once coached by Rick Pitino, and we all know what happened with him, the NCAA tournament committee, selection committee rather, you're going to have his son playing his dad's former program. Really? That's just bringing attention to it. Nevertheless, Minnesota's been making some shots, making some threes. They've got some decent players on their squad. It's the first time I've ever seen them. I'm just watching them right now. By the way, LSU, 26-6 this year, is up on Yale, 27-21 in the first round of this NCAA tournament. I'm looking at CBS right now, the TNT crew, Barkley, Kenny Smith, along with the great, phenomenal Ernie Johnson, all on at halftime with my brother Clark Kellogg, synonymous with college basketball, forever and always, by the way. I got my brackets here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you right now where I'm at with this. I actually got Minnesota winning this game against LSU. I'm looking at a team like Belmont, but I think they'll lose to Maryland. I'm talking about the East region now. Of course, I've got Duke coming out of there. I don't like the fact that Michigan State is the number 2 seed. They should have been a number 1 seed. I know Louisville, a number 7 seed right now, is going up against Minnesota. I'm just prejudiced against Louisville. Ever since I saw them a couple of months ago, their guards absolutely panic. They couldn't dribble, they couldn't pass, they couldn't shoot. They looked scared like a bunch of petrified puppies against Zion and Duke after being up 21-22 points a few weeks ago. And when y'all see guard play that is that shaky, I am not going with you. I'm not doing it. That's how I feel about Louisville. But just going through these brackets, okay? Let me tell you something. Duke, I got VCU winning. Liberty beating Mississippi State. Virginia Tech could be a sleeper. Minnesota, Michigan State. But essentially, I got Duke coming out of the East region. I got them meeting Michigan State in the Elite Eight and Duke coming to the Final Four. I got Gonzaga meeting Michigan in the West in the Elite Eight, with Gonzaga coming out of the West region to get to the Final Four. Although I have Syracuse, by the way, get to the second round before losing to Gonzaga. The game of the day that I'm waiting for is in the West region. It's Marquette as a number 5 seed versus Murray State. That game's going to be on live at 4:30. That's that kid Marcus Howard out of Marquette who's dropped over 45 points, or at least 45 points on 3 separate occasions this year, going against Ja Morant out of Murray State. I like the kid Ja Morant. He's got obviously higher upside than Marcus Howard. And I think that Ja Morant is going to end up being a top 5, potentially a top 3 pick in the NBA draft. I like this kid. I'm interested in seeing how Marcus Howard look going up against one another this afternoon. I can't wait for that matchup. That's the game I'm waiting for. Let me just be clear. But I see other teams in this region. Sleepers potentially, Buffalo, Florida, but I'm still going with Michigan and Gonzaga in the Elite Eight, and I'm going with Gonzaga. Transitioning over to the Midwest region, North Carolina is your number 1 seed. Kentucky's your number 2 seed. Kansas is your number 4 seed. Houston is your number 3 seed. I got Houston advancing to the Sweet 16. Okay? Kentucky will be out of there. Houston will be out there. And I think Kentucky takes out Houston. That's what I think is going to happen. I'm looking at North Carolina. And they'll probably meet Auburn in the Elite, in the Sweet 16. I think they beat them. And then it's North Carolina versus Kentucky. And I think North Carolina goes to the Final Four. Looking at this bracket, South region, Virginia's your number 1 seed. I have no faith in Virginia's offense. 0. No faith in their offense. 0. But I think they'll make the Sweet 16 this year. That's what I think. I really, really do. I think they'll make the Sweet 16. I think it'll be against Oregon. And Oregon will lose to Virginia. And Virginia will make it to the Elite Eight. I look at the rest of the bracket in the South. I see Villanova beating St. Mary's. I see Purdue beating Old Dominion. Tennessee, obviously. But I got Tennessee meeting Villanova in the Sweet 16. I got Tennessee beating Villanova. I got Virginia beating Oregon. And I think that Tennessee is going to beat Virginia, and Tennessee is going to get to the Final Four. That's what I believe. I think Tennessee is going to beat Virginia to get to the Final Four. And so my Final Four bracket is Tennessee North Carolina, Gonzaga, and Duke. I got 3 number 1s and a number 2 going to the Final Four. I've got Tennessee losing to North Carolina in the Elite Eight. I've got Duke beating Gonzaga. We're going to have an all-ACC final. Duke versus North Carolina, the greatest rivalry in the history of sports as far as I'm concerned. Might be even better than Michigan, Ohio State. But in the end, it comes down to this. I think Carolina can make shots. I think Zion is a monster, but I think Zion and Duke struggle with their perimeter shooting from time to time, and that's going to be the thing that hurts them. I'm picking North Carolina to beat Duke to cut down the Nets courtesy of winning the national championship. That's what I'm going with. That's what I believe. That's how I feel about it. But I got Tennessee going to the Final Four and Gonzaga. And by the way, I wouldn't sleep on Gonzaga either. I really, really wouldn't. 888 say ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. One of the other things I want to get into. I was in Philly last night. And I watched the Philadelphia 76ers go up against the Boston Celtics. And I got to tell y'all something, man. First of all, there's something special brewing as you watch Philly-Boston. It's not quite Dr. J. Julius Irvin with Darryl Dawkins, Caldwell Jones, Bobby Jones, and the crew going up against Bird and McHale and Parrish and all of these guys. It's not quite that, ladies and gentlemen, but it's getting there. When you see this crowd go absolutely positively berserk when Philadelphia is going up against these boys, it's something to behold. I got to tell y'all that. It's something to behold. This is some special stuff to watch. Believe me when I tell you. The crowd was rabid. They was fired up. Them big-time shots by Jimmy Butler in the fourth quarter meant everything. And the crowd roared like it did. It's a great, great, great home stand. Home crowd meaning. That's what I'm saying about Philadelphia. It's not an easy place to go and play and win a basketball game. But I got to tell you, if the Philadelphia 76ers and the Boston Celtics were to meet in the playoffs today, I would go with Boston. Now, keep in mind, Boston had beat them 3 straight in the regular season before last night. Keep in mind that Boston is the same team that took them out last year in the postseason. Keep in mind that even though the 76ers have Jimmy Butler, and even though they have Tobias Harris, and even though they have Joel Embiid, at the end of the day, Boston still can be their kryptonite. They can make shots. They have a closer. They've got young thoroughbreds who know how to put the ball in the hole when necessary. They're still trying to figure things out. They're not a finished product. But I'm telling you right now, the Boston Celtics, I'm not sleeping on them. And see, after the game, I'm talking to Kyrie last night. And Kyrie is so brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't take his comments about the world is really flat seriously. No, I'm not judging him for that. I'm talking about basketball. The brother knows his basketball. And speaking with the rest of those guys and talking with Jason Tatum and those guys, it's like they'll figure it out. But Kyrie Irving did make a very, very astute point that I need to share with y'all that I don't think is bogus at all. Being 14 games over 500, losing a few games that they've lost recently, I got it. Let me tell you something. When you look at them, and Kyrie breaks down, look, last year we were playing with house money. We could just go out there and ball. I was down. Gordon Hayward was down. You know what? You're going out there and you're just playing. But when expectations are saddled on you because everybody looks at our roster and know what our capabilities are, all of a sudden you start thinking more instead of playing. And that's where it becomes a challenge. Veterans like Gordon Hayward, Kyrie Irving to a lesser degree have been there. The young guys have not. Yes, they may have been in the playoffs, and yes, they may have went to within one game of the NBA Finals. But the thing about them is that they were playing with house money. They had absolutely, positively nothing to lose because nobody expected anything from them without Kyrie Irving or Gordon Hayward. But now we're both scheduled to be ready for the playoffs. You got to be ready for them. And guess who's having the most difficult time with it at times? Boston. So I think it's something to be concerned about. I think it's something to be alerted about. All those things are true. But in the end, when you have the Sixers and their play caller being orchestrated by Ben Simmons, who I love, by the way, who is just big time in every way, the flip side to it is that he has no jump shot. He doesn't even attempt one. And if you can lay off of him, that's a problem. Brett Brown and those guys put him on baseline, focus on putbacks and all of that other stuff. That's true. But the reality is that he would be a bigger threat, and the Sixers would be a bigger threat if Ben Simmons had a jump shot. Because he's got everything else. That's what they're saying. That's what they're asking you to think about. And I don't blame them. Because in the end, here's what it comes down to. Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler, I like. They can ball and they're rough riders. They got a lot of heart. And Joel Embiid ain't scared of anybody. I'll play sound from Joel Embiid when we come out of commercial break to show you how he ain't scared of anybody. But the flip side to it is that going to be enough? I don't know the answer to that question. But Boston thinks they do. And their answer is hell no. It won't be enough against us. As Terry Rozier said, yeah, you saw the confetti coming down. In other words, he's laughing at them making such a big deal over a regular season game. These are all the things that we have to think about. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. That was Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage in America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. We'll get to your calls and more in a minute on all of this NBA stuff, some NFL stuff involving Haskins and the Giants, or where should Haskins go? New York, Oakland, Tampa, you name it. It's worthy of a discussion. And we'll see where y'all go with it. 888-SAY-ESPN. You listen live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News, by the way. If you haven't tried the delicious high-quality meat from ButcherBox, you're going to be blown away. ButcherBox brings you the meat the way it's meant to be so you can get all of the benefits you're supposed to get. The Brooklyn Nets are one of the great NBA stories throughout this NBA season, and it's getting even better and better, unfolding before our very eyes. They're going to have enough space for a max player, possibly two. They already got a crew of young dudes who can play. LeVert can play. Hollis Jefferson can play. D'Angelo Russell can play. Allen can play. I mean, these brothers ain't no joke. You ain't even bring up Dinwiddie, who got the contract extension and well-deserved.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
Welcome back to Stephen A. Smith. This is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Credit Karma. Get your truly free credit scores and free credit monitoring from Credit Karma today. That's Credit Karma, K-A-R-M-A. Get knowing. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's get to the phones. Lots of stuff to get into today. Oh, by the way, before I say this, let me make sure I clarify my position, particularly the Sixers fans everywhere. This morning, I said on national television, I'm going to say it again, because I don't run from nothing. Ben Simmons is going to cost the Philadelphia 76ers a title. Ben Simmons is not good. He's great. He's phenomenal. In practically I love his heart. I love his game, his fearlessness, his ball handling skills, his passing skills. The brother is special. There's one thing that Ben Simmons is lacking, and it is a jump shot. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not talking about the kind you miss. I'm talking about this brother won't even take them. You cannot be on the basketball court in playoff competition against the Boston Celtics and the Toronto Raptors and have a guy of that stature being absolutely no threat from the perimeter whatsoever, considering how often he has to handle the ball. Now, I know Jimmy Butler is going to do his thing in the fourth quarter, and he's going to have ball handling and playmaking responsibilities along with Tobias Harris, and to a lesser degree, Ben Simmons. He'll be around the basket, roaming the baseline, looking for putbacks. I get it. But against those teams, I don't believe that's going to be good enough. That's just my personal opinion. If Ben Simmons develops a jump shot, Philadelphia 76ers is going to win a few titles. With Joel Embiid, with Ben Simmons, assuming that Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler still look the way that they look, I can't say enough about the job that Elton Brand and Sixers brass have done in acquiring Butler and Tobias Harris. I'm on the air live for 4 hours a day. Y'all expect me to be perfect about every damn thing. Please, kiss off. Anyway, let's go with the phones. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3766. Oh, by the way, I needed to transition to a different subject other than the NCAA tournament. As a matter of fact, before I do that, I'll get to this point right here. Let's go to Eric. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, E. How are you?
Stephen A., what's going on, man? How you doing?
Man, you better get me off that damn speakerphone and speak to my listeners. What's wrong with you? Pick up the phone.
Man, my bad. My bad. I got you. Give me 1 second. I got you.
Pick up the phone. One. There you go.
Yeah,
you was about to get
right,
a dial
right.
tone. What's the matter with you?
I got you.
Come
man.
on, bro.
I got you.
All right, go ahead.
All right. So, Stephen A., I don't know, man. I got to disagree with you with the Sixers in Boston.
Okay, go ahead.
I honestly think, man, the Sixers could take them to 7, or I think they could knock them out, man.
Hold it. I didn't say they couldn't take them to 7. I didn't say that.
All right. Yep. But what I'm saying is, if Ben Simmons had that jumper, I think they would have enough to give him a gentleman's sweep. That's how good I think the Sixers are. But because he doesn't have that jumper, but he has those bevy of shooters around him, I think they could get him in 7.
You know what? Let me correct that. The Sixers could take them in 7. Okay? That's why Boston would beat them in 6.
Okay. All right. You got
In
that.
other words, the Sixers don't want to come back to Wells Fargo. I'm sorry, the Celtics don't want to have to come back to Wells Fargo for a Game 7. I agree with you there.
That's what I'm saying.
But I think Boston could steal one early in Philly and then protect their home court and close them out in 6.
Right. I can see that.
All right.
Another thing, Stephen A., with the college ball, man, I know the game you're waiting to see.
Oh, yes.
4:30 of Murray State. You know, Marquette. I think John Morant, he's going to have a crazy game, Stephen A.
I think he's going to blow up. I think he's dropping 30 today. I think he's dropping 30.
Definitely. Hey, Stephen A., a couple of my brackets, I got him going as far as to the Elite 8, Stephen A. I think he's got that kind of talent.
Yep. Got it. Appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. I think John Morant's big time. Marcus Howard averaged 25 a game. But he's not John Morant from Morrissey. He's not that dude. I don't think so. Maybe I'll find out more. It's not like I watched him all the time. So we'll find out today. But he's not John Morant. Not to me. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. I wanted to transition to another subject before I because I want to get into this and I wanted to have some time on the show to hear from y'all about this. Le'Veon Bell had some words, was being interviewed by Sports Illustrated and said a few things about Big Ben Roethlisberger. Let me say this. I personally like Le'Veon Bell. He was in that locker room. I'm not disputing the veracity of anything he said. But I just thought his comments about Big Ben, they weren't vicious or malicious or anything like that. He was answering a direct question. Like my man Max said on First Take this morning. I get that. But just because something is truthful don't mean you got to say stuff all the time. There's a lot of truth that I could spew to y'all all day, every day. But damn it, I ain't going to say everything. Because certain things are just not appropriate. Big Ben may be a problem. Is he the problem in Pittsburgh? No. Antonio Brown wanted his money, and ultimately he wanted out and was looking to be disruptive in order to get what he wanted, and he pulled it off. Le'Veon Bell sat out the season, was trying to create a new category for running backs or multi-purpose running backs to be paid. He was unsuccessful in that venture, but still got some money. $35 million guaranteed. But he didn't achieve what he was out to achieve. I understand that Big Ben Roethlisberger is a quarterback. Big Ben Roethlisberger is privileged by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Big Ben Roethlisberger has made some mistakes in terms of his leadership ability and how he's dealt with guys. But I just don't think if you Le'Veon Bell, you needed to be saying that to Sports Illustrated. You didn't sit out because of Big Ben Roethlisberger. You sat out because of money. If the Steelers hadn't franchised you and they gave you a long-term deal, you wouldn't have said a damn thing about Big Ben Roethlisberger. Antonio Brown would have complained no matter what, money or no money, because he had that kind of relationship with Big Ben where, like Le'Veon Bell pointed out, sometimes Big Ben would get upset and not throw the ball to him. So chances are Antonio Brown would have had a problem with Big Ben whether he was getting paid or not. But that clearly wasn't the case with Le'Veon Bell. You still had 321 carries. You still had 85 receptions. Big Ben Roethlisberger had nothing to do with Le'Veon Bell's situation. Nothing. So why speak on him? Now, I like Le'Veon Bell. Like I said, I think he's one of the best in the game. But we all know there's been a past where you've missed games because of violations of the league's policy or injuries. We know this. What if Big Ben Roethlisberger started talking about you? See, these are the kind of things that you got to be concerned about. Can't throw stones when you live in the glass houses. It wasn't malicious or anything like that, but I would say it was just unnecessary. He's moved on. He could have moved on. Maybe he was coming to the defense of Antonio Brown, but he didn't have to go there. That's all I'm saying. 888-SAY-ESPN. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. You know what I know? You know what never goes out of style? Surprising a friend or loved one with a buy one, get one free multicolored rose bouquets for $29.99 from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Back with your calls and more in a minute.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
Him of all people.
For around-the-clock access to the man?
I'm Stephen A.
You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Stephen A. Smith and on Facebook at Stephen A.
And the Clippers about 10 or 11 games over 500. What a job by Doc Rivers. What a job. Patrick Beverly, Danilo Gallinari, Shea Alexander. These are the people that he has. These are 10, 11 games over 500. What a sensational job by Doc Rivers. But another brilliant move he made. All that noise percolated about the Lakers. Clippers came, re-upped him, made sure there wasn't no possibility he was leaving for the Lakers. He's a Clipper for years to come. And oh, by the way, he's got the better team. Who, by the way, has more cap space than the Lakers to offer a free agent or two this summer. So in New York and in LA, we got the sister franchises, essentially, for lack of a better term, the Mets. That's the Brooklyn Nets. They're basically the Mets to the Yankees. Except the Knicks ain't really the Yankees because the Yankees actually win and the Knicks don't. But that's beside the point. I'm talking about Brandon here. Branding. You have a situation where there's two stepsisters or stepchildren in the two largest markets in the United States of America are threatening to be number one.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. We're coming to you live from above the Heineken River Deck at Pier 17, South Street Seaport. Also need seats to a game? Download the Vivid Seats app and enter promo code CHAMPS at checkout to get 10% off your first order. Don't buy just any seat. Get a Vivid seat. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. I'll get back to the world of sports in terms of what goes on the field and the court of play in a minute, but I want to take a moment to send my deepest condolences to Kevin Durant of the Golden State Warriors and to friends, family members, and loved ones of Cliff Dixon. Cliff Dixon is a really good friend, adopted brother practically of Kevin Durant, former basketball player himself, shot and killed in Atlanta, Georgia, last night celebrating his 32nd birthday. Just turned 32 years old, killed on his birthday in Atlanta. Fox Atlanta reports that the shooting took place in the parking lot of the Little Saigon Strip Mall in Chamblee, Georgia, 15 miles north of Atlanta, around 1 a.m. By the time police arrived at the scene, Dixon was already in critical condition. He was rushed to Grady Memorial Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Police believe there was a single gunman who took off on foot before authorities arrived. Police searched the crime scene with K-9 units after the shooting. Law enforcement said the investigation has been hindered because many of the security cameras at the mall are not working. The SL Lounge nightclub where the party was held advertised an appearance from Dixon on their official page. And you know the rest. We don't know who the gunman is. We know that a young man, African American, 32 years of age, was killed. And my heart goes out to his loved ones, his family, especially somebody like Kevin Durant, because you know how emotional he can be, and that is in a good way, because he cares. And so many times we look at these players and we heap expectations on their shoulders, expecting them to trust, to be open, to be thankful and grateful of the privileged position that they find themselves in because of the money that they're earning, instead of us taking into consideration the fact that they not only worked on their skills to the degree that they did to get them to a point where they could ultimately earn this money by performing professionally, but think about the minefields they had to go through in order to have the peace to focus on their game and to do what it could to get themselves out of certain situations. And even when you're gone, you still got to be able to go home. And sometimes you can't because people want to pull you back into a life that you tried to leave behind. This is the plight of many, many professional athletes that we don't take into consideration. This is the latest example of that. Again, my condolences to Kevin Durant and all the loved ones of Mr. Dixon.
The Stephen A. Smith Show starts right now.
Tower number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you right here as I love to do every weekday over the airways of ESPN Radio, ESPN News, plus ESPN Radio and Sirius XM Channel 80. Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Uber. Uber Rewards is going to make you love Uber even more. Get all the info and terms at uber.com/rewards. Plus, ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Protecting your small business is a big deal. Cover what you've worked so hard for. Visit progressivecommercial.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm watching this Minnesota-Louisville game. Louisville is down by 14 to Minnesota. I picked Minnesota in my bracket to win this game. Okay? This kid, what is it, Gabe Kelcher, whatever the hell his name is. I mean, this kid is balling. He's hit like 5 threes. He's driving to the basket. He's making things happen. I got to tell you something right now. It's quite impressive what he's doing. It really is. Louisville has no answer for this kid. Gabe Kelcher. He's a freshman. 6'4" guard. Averaged 9.9 points this year. Dropping threes all over the place like it's going out of style. Busting their butt. Still 6 minutes, 51 seconds left. But Minnesota is up 66-53. Remember, my game of the day is Marquette and Marcus Howard against Murray State and Ja Morant. I really don't give a damn about the game. I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't give a damn about Murray State or Marquette. I give a damn about seeing Marcus Howard go up against Ja Morant, 225-point per game scorers. Now, Ja Morant's a monster. And I'll tell you something right now. He's got the kind of game, John. He's got the kind of game where you see these Cinderella stories that take place in the NCAA tournament where one guy provides so many shining moments. Ja Morant got that kind of game where he could go on a run. It's college basketball. These are kids we're talking about here. Wet breath smelling like Similac, wet behind the ears. They don't know no better. These guys, I mean, somebody like Ja Morant could get hot and carry these boys to the Final Four. I don't think so. They're in the West region with Gonzaga. But it's possible. I'm just saying. 888-SAY-ESPN is 888-729-3776. Let's go to my man Carlton. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, buddy? Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you doing today,
I'm doing
Stephen?
good. Always good to hear from you, buddy. What's up?
I just continue to marvel at the absolute absurdity of the social media tours that Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown have been on since they decided to exit the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I got some questions to you, Stephen A., and maybe it'll illuminate amongst your listeners who is really the problem and the true nonsense of this situation. Was it Ben Roethlisberger who got suspended at the beginning of the 2015 and 2016 Steelers seasons, or was that Le'Veon Bell?
That was Le'Veon Bell.
Was it Ben Roethlisberger who held out in 2017 and 2018, or was that Le'Veon Bell?
That was Le'Veon Bell.
Was it Ben Roethlisberger who was absent from the roster for the Steelers in their final playoff game, their final playoff loss in 2014, 2015, 2016, and they didn't even make the playoffs in 2018? But was that Roethlisberger who wasn't there at the end, or was that Le'Veon Bell who wasn't there at the end of those 4 out of the last 5 seasons?
That is true. That's Le'Veon Bell. What's your point?
Was it Ben Roethlisberger that faced time out of the locker room when
that was Antonio Brown.
Yeah. Was it Ben Roethlisberger who was absent after the second game of the season last year? He missed practice because he wasn't happy
that following Monday, that was Antonio Brown.
Was it Ben Roethlisberger who wasn't there in the final week of the season when they needed to win that game to have a chance?
That was Antonio Brown. That was Antonio Brown.
So the only thing that we can point to with Ben Roethlisberger is he did say that Antonio Brown had to flatten off his route when Roethlisberger at the end of the game against Denver got picked off and they lost the game by 1 touchdown. That's the one thing we can point to with Big Ben Roethlisberger. And yet all this stuff with these other 2 guys we can point to. And the problem was always Ben and not these guys. And, oh, by the way, Antonio Brown made $44 million with the Pittsburgh Steelers the last 3 seasons. He's due to make $50 million in the next 3 seasons with the Oakland Raiders. Not even a raise when you consider the amount that the salary cap is going up every year. The salary cap's up 21% in the last 3 seasons.
Okay.
Le'Veon Bell would have made $26.5 million with the Steelers had he played under the franchise tag last year, which he didn't. And he's due to make $28 million over the next 2 years.
Let me work with you here, Carlton. Work with me, rather. Let me tell you what my position is. Ben Roethlisberger is not the primary individual to blame. But he's not faultless in all of this. Hear me out. He's the quarterback. He's the leader. When you have guys speaking out about some of his tactics that we would not be privy to, they would know. And if they would know, you harbor some responsibility. Now, that doesn't absolve Antonio Brown from missing the last game of the season. And it doesn't absolve him from being a bit cantankerous on his way out the door because he was trying to push himself and force his way out the door. It ended up working because the Steelers probably would have held on to him and continued to do what they were doing with him monetarily because they're like, hey, we don't have to take care of him. He wanted the guaranteed dollars had expired. He wanted out. That was that. In the case of Le'Veon Bell, I will say this. Le'Veon Bell, you got 321 carries. You had 85 receptions. Ben Roethlisberger, just like he did for Antonio Brown, did help make you look good. If you're out the door playing with a new team, it's one thing for Antonio Brown to have a problem with Big Ben because he's a receiver. He didn't believe he was getting the ball enough. There were things that were going on where they would argue and the ball might be thrown in his direction or whatever the case may be. Le'Veon Bell got his carries. Le'Veon Bell got his catches. And the only reason he wasn't on the squad last year was because he didn't want to get franchise tag and he wanted a long-term deal. Had the Steelers given him his money, he would have never said a word about Big Ben Roethlisberger. So why say something now? That's where I'm at with it. Go ahead.
Stephen A., it's as clear as day that Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown were the problems with regard to the Steelers. That doesn't mean they're not great players. They were the issue. Did Roethlisberger have a faux pas when he publicly said that Antonio Brown should have flattened off his route? Yeah, but I can point to 10 things that Le'Veon Bell did to screw up the Steelers' seasons the last 4 years. I can point to...
But why was Le'Veon Bell the problem over the last 2 years? We know what happened in 2015, 2016. Let's ignore that for a second. Let's point to the last couple of years where he was simply fighting for his money. It's a business decision.
No, but he wanted to get paid for a position that doesn't exist. In other words, he wanted to be paid by and he still isn't. And
but listen to what I'm saying.
But
listen to what I'm saying. You're right about that, but that's business. He made a bad business decision. It wasn't like say what? What are you talking?
He mucked up the Steelers' season. Yes, he made a bad business decision, and at the same time screwed up the Steelers' season.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair because if he was on the field.
Brown just didn't want. He wasn't happy that he wasn't getting. He got tons of targets, but he wanted all the accolades. He wanted that giant.
But my problem with you, Carlton, is this: you can't have it both ways. In Le'Veon Bell's case, he mucked up their season because why? He didn't show up because he made it a business decision that wasn't in the best interest of the Steelers, and clearly in the end didn't appear to be in the best interest of himself, assuming that he didn't mind that he might look back and mind passing up on a $14.5 million franchise tag. But in the case of Antonio Brown, he was on the field and he was balling all of these years, 6 consecutive seasons of 100-plus receptions for over 1,287 yards each season. So he did ball, Carlton. You got complaints with one guy who was on the field performing, and you got the complaint with the other guy who didn't show up.
No, I got complaints with the guy who gave the Patriots more ammunition when he FaceTime, the
Yes,
coach
Kansas City. Yep.
besmirching the Patriots. I got a problem with the guy who doesn't show up after the second game of the season when they're struggling. They're all 1-1 because he's unhappy about his target, so that Juju's getting more attention than him. I got a real problem with a guy who doesn't show up the final week of the season when they're trying to get into the playoffs. I mean, for crying out loud, compare that to Big Ben making a bad comment about Antonio Brown one time.
Doesn't compare.
Who are really the problems here, Stephen A?
Absolutely. If you put it that way, I totally agree. My only point is you can't completely absolve Big Ben because my position is consistent. Years ago when Donovan McNabb and T.O. had problems, we all know how T.O. can be. We all know how he could act from time to time. But my position was you the franchise player. You the star franchise quarterback. You the star player and a franchise quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles at that time. You knew how T.O. was. You work your way around it. What you don't do is alienate him. You don't sit up there and say, I don't get involved in people's contracts. I got nothing to say. But then you go and you speak up on behalf of Brian Westbrook because y'all have the same agent. But you don't do that for the star wide receiver that had helped you have a stellar season that ended up getting y'all to the Super Bowl, even though he wasn't available for the playoffs until the Super Bowl. The point is that when you're in that leadership position, Carlton, there's something to be said about making sure that guys are cool with you.
Well, look at it this way, Stephen A. They forced their way out. They got supposedly what they wanted, and they're still trashing the Steelers.
That's true. That's true. Which is why I spoke out against them. Right.
Yep. These guys have other issues other than just, what we've been told.
Oh, by the way, Carlton, let me switch subject before I let you get on out of here. And thanks for the call. Before I let you get on out of here, what did you think about my suggestion that Tampa draft Haskins out of Ohio State instead of letting him get to the Giants?
Jameis Winston made some strides in the last few games of last year, and I went to every single game, Stephen A. In terms of not dancing back in that pocket and getting drilled from behind and fumbling the ball and making bad decisions. But I didn't see enough momentum. I would be drafting Haskins or somebody else in case it doesn't work out, because I don't think Arians is likely to be the quarterback whisperer with Jameis Winston. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. Maybe he will be, but I doubt it. And by the way, Fitzpatrick will win more games than anybody expects in Miami this coming year.
What do you mean, 5 games?
Well, that's
5 games.
That's what Vegas has them at, Stephen A. So I'm saying they're going to win at least 7. How's that?
All right, we'll see. We'll see. Take it easy, Carlton, man. Have a good weekend, buddy. Have a good weekend. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Let's go to Joe. Tell me something, Joe.
What's going on, Steve?
What's up, man? Talk to me.
You looking sharp today, brother. First off,
I'm usually looking sharp, but thank you very much.
All right. So just to piggyback off what Carlton said, I think he missed one part where Le'Veon Bell showed up to the plane with LeGarrette Blount, smelling like weed.
I didn't know that. You're talking about the practice when they were heading to Philly.
Yeah, and
I forgot all about that.
Is that Big Ben's fault showing up smelling like weed?
Nope.
Nope. I mean, I don't mean to bring up Martavis Bryant, but you know what I mean? Is that Big Ben's fault? And then it kind of makes you wonder, where's Mike Tomlin in all this? This didn't happen under, Bill Cowher. And then I didn't like the way Le'Veon Bell said, well, Big Ben's mad at Antonio Brown. Then he wants to throw it to Juju Smith-Schuster. Thing is, Juju Smith, he's catching the ball. And how is Juju Smith ever going to get Antonio Brown money if he doesn't get the ball?
Wait a minute. Antonio Brown was catching the ball too now. And you can't sit up there. You can't be the quarterback and say, we should have threw it to Juju every time. You can't say that.
Granted, but I don't think there's not one bit of film where Antonio Brown was dead open and Big Ben said, I'm mad at this guy. I'm not going to throw him the football.
Fair enough.
And my last point, I want to correlate what you've been talking about all week, and it's this big contract money. Mm-hmm. And I think there's, an epidemic going around where each athlete is competing with one another across the board, across different sport platforms, about who's getting more money. They want to one-up each other. And it seems like the focus is no longer on winning anymore. That's not the drive.
Well, listen, the bottom line is that's a different competition, and you're trying to win in that department. If they tell you the problem is that football's a little bit different because, for example, Tom Brady's a 6-time champion, right? And he's obviously a winner, okay? And universally recognized as the modern day GOAT, okay? But Tom Brady religiously accepts less than what he could ultimately take to help the team build, all right? So he's willing to make that sacrifice. That's entirely different. What happens is in most sports, what you see is a situation where guys are saying, okay, this guy got this money, so I'm getting this. Manny Machado gets $300 million. You knew Bryce Harper was going to get 325 to 330.
Yeah,
Bryce Harper gets 330. You knew Mike Trout was going to get 400 million. But if neither of them had gotten 300, what would Trout have gotten? You see my point?
Very true. I think that whole baseball money, I think that started with the whole Robinson Cano to the Mariners.
Well, you could say that at $240 million, but
yeah,
I'll tell you where the real problem lies. The real problem lies with these cats and these other sports getting this money and nobody's saying anything. But the second they get paid in football or basketball, everybody's got questions about their dollars.
Very true. Stephen, I got one more point.
Hurry up. Go ahead.
I got you. So I just wanted to know, just like what Carlton said, who started all this, or where did this all start? Did it start with Big Ben not having the cleanest record, with all his scandals? And then my last opinion, just from a Steeler fan from one to another, do you think the Steelers should try to pick up another running back, say like Adrian Peterson?
I think they should. I don't know if you need another one like Adrian Peterson because I think James Conner right now is running the ball effectively for them, and I think he might be even better this year. Let's give him an opportunity to see what he's got. But in terms of where everything has started, you can make that argument. I'm tired of bringing that stuff up. Listen, Ben Roethlisberger made mistakes in the past. So did Le'Veon Bell. Let's talk about them and football. These are problems that were made years ago. It's just like with Jameis Winston. I just saw Jameis Winston in California. Jameis Winston looks in shape, looks like he's working out. He looks like he cares. People look at the trouble that he got in where he ended up missing the first 3 games of this past season in the National Football League. But they forget the incident was dating back to 2016 or somewhere along those lines. Please don't quote me on the date. I don't remember. But I know it was a while back. It wasn't like he had just made a recent mistake. And I think what happens is a lot of times we're just judging these guys and we won't let go. We won't let go. Damn, they made a mistake years ago. I'm going to judge Jameis Winston about football. I'm not going to judge him by how he acted towards an Uber driver. I'm hopeful that he grew up and that he'll never make that mistake again. If he makes that mistake again, then everything comes back up. But if he never makes that mistake again, let's leave him be. Ben Roethlisberger, he was never arrested nor indicted on anything like that or anything like that. That is not what happened. So we bring that up like he was guilty. People brought it up like Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant proclaimed his innocence. And then after proclaiming his innocence, was willing to go to court and was flying back and forth to Eagle County, Colorado, and dropping 40 at night games. All right? Before the case ultimately settled. But he was fighting for his innocence. And people talk about these guys like they're guilty. And that's just not so. There's no proof of that. So at some point in time, let's get back to judging them in regards to what we're talking about, which is their play on the field or lack thereof. Gotta go. Appreciate the call. Let's go to Barry. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, good afternoon, Stephen. Thanks for having me again, man.
I'm good.
Last night in the Sixers game.
Yes.
I understand. I totally agree with you, man. Simmons had to shoot that basketball.
Yeah.
They were leaving him wide open last night.
Yeah,
man.
and backing off of him. And backing off on him and doubling up on other people because they knew he wasn't going to shoot.
Oh, man. If he could shoot, man, they would be over.
Yeah. That's how I'm looking at it.
Look here, man. You need to talk to him. You know, you've been in Philly. You know how the boys go down in Philly, man.
Listen. They're talking to him. They're telling him to shoot the basketball. They're telling him this all the time. Shoot the ball. Shoot the rock. Shoot the rock. You can't get better if you don't shoot it.
God, leave, man. He got to open up. They just backed off him.
And I shouldn't say he's scared. Listen, what I mean by scared to shoot, he ain't scared to take it to the hole and dunk on somebody. He's not scared to try to score a layup. He's not scared of any of those things. Where the problem lies with Ben Simmons is his willingness to pull up from 15 feet and beyond. At 12 feet and beyond, that's his problem, and that's what he has to correct.
And you're correct. I think he's going to cost them the playoffs, man.
Yeah, I think so as well. I appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much, Barry. LJ in the house. What's up, big boy? Talk to me.
What's going on? What's going on, Stephen? Hey, man,
All right,
I
man.
want to get your take on the Rockets, man. We got the second best record
since
we let go of Carmelo, man, right behind Milwaukee. So I want to get your thoughts. You know, D'Antoni is known going maybe 7 deep with what rosters he has. This year, the way Daryl Morey constructed his team, he can possibly go 9, maybe 10. So what do you think about?
I don't trust D'Antoni to do that. I really, really don't. I could be wrong because he has modified himself to some degree. Listen, Bizdilic is there running the defense again, okay? D'Antoni obviously listens, and he's done a good job, man. D'Antoni's done a good job. You know, you got to be critical of him from time to time with decisions that he may make that you disagree with, but the bottom line is, by and large, he's done a good job as the coach of this franchise. They were in Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals last year. They started off 11-14 this year, and now look at them. They're a top 3 seed in the West. James Harden is about to win a second consecutive MVP. If the vote were today, he'd get my vote. The man dropped 57 last night. He's dropped over 50 about 5 or 6 times this year. On top of it all, he scored at least 30 against every single NBA team this season. Can you believe it?
Yes.
James Harden is sensational. So I look at the Houston Rockets, and I got to tell you something. I've been on this tip about Oklahoma City being a number 1 threat to the Golden State Warriors because of the way Paul George was playing, the way Russell Westbrook can play, the depth that they have, the way that they play defense. But I got to tell you something. The way James Harden is looking right now, the acquisition of Kenneth Faried, Eric Gordon being there, P.J. Tucker being there, Clint Capella being there. I mean, listen, you got cats that can play defense. You got cats that can play offense. They clearly know how to play. And James Harden is just unstoppable, period. So I don't have a problem with anybody that tells me we're going to have a rematch of the Western Conference Finals between Houston and Golden State, and that Houston has a shot at winning it all. I don't have a problem with that. And oh, by the way, LJ, I love H-Town. I ain't got no problems with H-Town, bro. So if I end up having to go to H-Town instead of Oakland, I ain't mad. I ain't mad.
Hopefully I can meet you because I will be at the games because I cover the Rockets for the West.
You will meet me, and I'll tell you why. Number 1, I'll be at the game. Number 2, and more importantly, not only would I be at the games, but if the Houston Rockets make it to the finals, First Take will be out there for the finals, and you know you got a pass to come on to the show, dog. Come on now. It's done.
I appreciate that.
All you got to do. And by the way, you understand, it ain't just you, it's the crew. You got a crew. I know you. You got a crew. You LJ, you here for Stephen A. That's all you got to say. Done.
Appreciate the love, Stephen A.
Done. Automatic. Appreciate you, bro. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio. ESPN News. Back with your calls in more in a minute. By the way, do you have frequent heartburn? Like the kind where you have antacids stashed everywhere in case it pops up? You know what I mean. You keep some in your bag or your desk or your car or your nightstand. You have those chalky tablets ready for whenever and wherever heartburn strikes. Well, listen up. There's an easier way to deal with your heartburn. That's Prilosec OTC. That's how. Just one pill. Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Let me tell y'all something. Biggie would be proud. Jay-Z got to be proud. I'm trying to tell y'all something right now. The Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets. Somebody needs to start paying attention. And if you are a New York Knicks fan, ladies and gentlemen, I just got to say it. It's just not good right now. It's just not good right now. If you are the New York Knicks, here's what has happened. Because of how the Brooklyn Nets are looking, devoid of a superstar, but exceptionally well run by Sean Marks and a pretty damn good coach in Atkinson. With this roster of players who are clearly together, you don't see too many benches going off the way those brothers were going off last night. The support that they have for each other, they're a family. I'm trying to tell y'all something right now, man. Brooklyn Nets. I can't. Look, I'm a native New Yorker, born in the Bronx, raised in Hollis, Queens. There was no Brooklyn Nets years ago. I'm all about the New York Knicks, but I got to tell the truth. The Brooklyn Nets are one of the great NBA stories throughout this NBA season, and it's getting even better and better, unfolding before our very eyes. They're going to have enough space for a max player, possibly two. They already got a crew of young dudes who can play. LeVert can play. Hollis Jefferson can play. D'Angelo Russell can play. Allen can play. I mean, these brothers ain't no joke. You ain't even bring up Dinwiddie, who got the contract extension and well-deserved.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Credit Karma. Get your truly free credit scores and free credit monitoring from Credit Karma today. That's Credit Karma, Karma. Get knowing. Fisher, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Yo, what's up, bro? How are you?
I'm good, man. Talk to me.
I wanted to know who is your favorite team that is not making the playoffs in the NBA, like that has the biggest hype.
I wouldn't say the biggest hype, but my favorite team that probably isn't going to make the playoffs this year would be the Sacramento Kings. I don't like the way they blew that lead against the Brooklyn Nets the other day, but I love what I'm seeing from Brooklyn. Brooklyn would be my favorite team, except they're going to make the playoffs. But for the teams that doesn't make the playoffs, the Sacramento Kings, De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield and I like Harrison. Excuse me, I like Harrison Barnes in the squad. I like this kid Giles. I like Willie Cauley-Stein. I like Bogdanovic. Rather. I like these guys. I really, really do, and I love me De'Aaron Fox. Always loved De'Aaron Fox. I thought the Lakers should have drafted him instead of Lonzo.
No, I'm saying the Knicks. Fox, I love Fox too. Incredible speed, incredible pace. He just gotta get better at knowing the game. But I'm saying the Knicks. What do you think about the Knicks?
What about them? They got to get the number 1 overall pick because I think that's going to contribute to somebody wanting to come to New York. I think if they don't get the number 1 overall pick in this upcoming draft lottery, it's going to be that much harder for them to attract a marquee free agent or two to come to them.
I don't know. I still think that we're gonna get somebody. Kemba maybe.
Listen. You don't get to call on my show and dance around like that. I think we go get somebody, but you don't have any idea who. No, I mean that's not good enough. What do you think is gonna happen and why? Be specific. Let's go.
I think we're gonna get KD 100%. I think. Everything that's happening in Golden State with all the drama, KD's over it.
Okay.
He doesn't really want to be there anymore.
Okay, are you ready for this? Are you ready for this, Fisher?
Let's hear it.
That's a damn phone call. Way to go. Next time, be ready to do it up front. Have a nice day. Maurice, go ahead.
Stephen A., man, I just wanted to give you some information about the Haskins situation with the Giants.
Okay.
I'm in North Carolina, as you know, but it's bad optics. We got Gettleman, who was hired by Jerry Richardson, transgression that Richardson had. And I was looking into this. Haskins' agent is the same agent that was with Landon Collins and how Collins got sick. I just see that Gettleman's going to get that quarterback from Missouri. And I have never seen two quarterbacks in the caliber for 4,800 yards, 50 touchdowns, and gets overlooked. And I don't remember in all my years, two black quarterbacks would be first 5 picks, and you overlooked them. I just don't understand it, man.
Whoa. What makes you say they're going to be overlooked? I mean, you got to remember that when you talk about the NFL draft, man, these are pathological liars everywhere. And so you're talking about a situation that entails everything potentially being a smokescreen and folks just saying stuff because they don't want people before them to take them. Or try to muscle them by trying to coax a pick and additional compensation just so the Giants could move up, for example. That's what you're working with.
But Gettleman, he is so conservative, Stephen. Look how he deep six how he deep six Smith in Carolina.
I understand. But in the end, what I'm saying to you is this is about the quarterback position. So we're going to find out. But if I'm Tampa, I'm not passing up on Haskins. If I'm the Lakers, I'm considering taking Haskins. Because I don't know about Derek Carr. That would be me. I'm considering it. And oh, by the way, so far so good this offseason. John Gruden and Mike Mayock have looked pretty damn good. So we about to find out.
One last thing, Steven. I just want to say this. I'm a diehard Mets fan.
Mets?
Like the host said yesterday.
Mets?
You have to eat crow. The Mets will have a better record than the Yankees.
Did you just say that? Did you just say that the New York Mets are going to have a better record than the New York Yankees?
Yes.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it, man. Look, Maurice, I appreciate the laugh, bro. I appreciate the laugh. Y'all don't have any. I mean, listen, when Cespedes coming back? When's he going to be back? Is Wheeler going to stay healthy? Is Matt's going to stay healthy? I mean, what are you going to do? Is Syndergaard going to stay healthy? I mean, come on, man. Come on. You got no chance. All right? You got a new GM Van Wagenen or whatever the hell his name is. Good-looking dude. Everybody talking about how he should be on The Bachelor. That's what you got going on. You know that, right? You got a GM that should be on The Bachelor. Him or Osmus in Anaheim. All right? You got cats that look like they should be on The Bachelor. That's all you got to say about them. I mean, really? Come on, man. That's really funny. I got to give that to you. That was a good laugh. I thank you for that laugh, man. Let's go to Derek. What's up, man? How are you?
I'm fine, Stephen A. How are you doing today,
I'm
brother?
good, man. I'd appreciate Maurice giving me a reason to laugh like that. Mets going to have a better record than the Yankees. He got to be crazy. Go ahead, man.
I don't see it. But anyway, lifelong Steelers fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same
Over
here.
the drama.
Yeah.
But I would agree with Carlton about Le'Veon Bell.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree about Antonio Brown.
Right.
I think Antonio Brown's issue wasn't really – I think it was more manufactured. I think it had more to do with the fact that none of his money was guaranteed to this point.
Yeah, I agree.
Beyond this point. So I think he was looking for excuses to get out of town.
He clearly made an excuse. He clearly made it an excuse. The problem was, once he got his money, he still stuck to it.
Right.
He didn't backtrack from it with the press conference with the Raiders.
Well, he at this point, I am more inclined to go believe that the Steelers need to do what Steelers normally do, which is all this drama needs to be behind us and move on. Let those two fools keep talking.
Yeah, I know this much, man, but I wouldn't have left $21 million on my cap for a player that I wasn't using.
Yeah, but at some time you got to go addition by subtraction.
I get you. We say that, but I don't always see that.
And frankly, what I am thinking that the Steelers' issues won't necessarily be on offense. If they don't fix the secondary issue, which has been an issue for the last 2 years.
Don't get me started. Don't you dare get me started with that defense. Don't you do it. I'm in a good mood. The Steelers' defense hasn't stepped up to the plate in years. I don't give a damn what their numbers show. When you need the Steelers' defense to get stops, they don't do it for you. They don't do it for you. Period.
Everyone's talking about Big Ben this, Big Ben that, but the two times Big Ben went to the Super Bowl, to me, was on the back of the defense.
Absolutely.
And that hasn't happened since then.
Yeah, totally agree. No argument here. And by the way, the same could be said about Eli Manning as well. Eli Manning didn't win no Super Bowls. He might have got an MVP. But Eli Manning didn't win. They scored 17 in one Super Bowl, 21 in another. Eli Manning, that Giants defense being all over Brady is what won the Super Bowl for the New York Giants, not Eli Manning. But that's just me. Didn't even throw in 300 yards in any of the games. That's right, I said it. Appreciate the call. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Back with your calls to close out the show in a minute. By the way, ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Customers who switch to Progressive can save an average of $668. Call or click today and find out if we could save you hundreds on your car insurance. This show and all of ESPN is streaming live on the ESPN app. Now with ESPN Plus, where you... Now, as I reported weeks ago, Doc Rivers had the right to get out of his contract after this season if he wanted to. Even though he had recently re-upped with them, he had an out after the season. He could have left. But Doc Rivers, as far as I'm concerned, outside of the brilliant coaching job that now has him as one of the top 3 Coach of the Year candidates in the NBA, as far as I'm concerned, no CP3, no Blake Griffin, no DeAndre Jordan, but he's in the playoffs at the players will begin today. And the Clippers are about 10 or 11 games over 500. What a job by Doc Rivers. What a job. Patrick Beverley, Danilo Gallinari, Shea Alexander. These are the people that he has. He's in 10, 11 games over 500. What a sensational job by Doc Rivers. But another brilliant move he made. All that noise percolated about the Lakers. Clippers came, re-upped him, made sure there wasn't no possibility he was leaving for the Lakers. He's a Clipper for years to come. And oh, by the way, he's got the better team. Who, by the way, has more cap space than the
saying something about the Knicks getting the first pick and what you think. So, I mean, regardless, even if we don't get the first or third pick, right? I mean, Durant and Kyrie, they have a good chance coming to the Knicks. I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Because, Kyrie was playing St. Pat. It's home for him. Jersey was home for him. Even though that Brooklyn's got, 2 max contracts. I mean, the Knicks are just shining statues outside the stadium.
Listen, I've been hearing wild suggestions all day long. You got somebody calling up asking me what the New York Knicks gonna do. That depends on the ping pong balls. You got Crazy Maurice talking about the Mets. They gonna have a better record than the Yankees. Yeah, somebody calling me up talking about Adrian Peterson. He could be a running back for somebody. Call Pittsburgh still, whatever. He re-signed with the Redskins. I mean, listen, you got people making all kinds of crazy suggestions right now. All right, there's nothing new that's going on here. Here's the bottom line with the New York Knicks. All right. You got to get Zion Williamson.
Amen.
If you don't get the number 1 overall pick, what possible attractive commodity do you have available to you? What possible attractive commodity do you have available to you to offer anybody?
Brooklyn's got 2 max contracts. So, I mean, the truth of the matter is that, Chicago outside, they got MJ, right? Lakers got Baylor, Shaq, Kareem, Magic, Jerry Chick. I mean, the Knicks are just shining statues without faces. They don't got, there's so much history.
Yep.
But yet no one's,
We got it, because I got to go. I appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. I got your point about the Knicks. It is what it is. Let's go to Ray. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Ray.
Hey, what's up, Stephen A. Smith?
All right.
Question for you. What's your current take on the Miami Heat and what decisions do you have to make to become
I think the Miami Heat are a mediocre team, and I think they got to attract the star to South Beach. I like the supplementary parts that they have. I like the talent that they have with Richardson and Winslow and these boys. I like them, but there are no stars. And the fact is that what kind of identity do you have? Who do you have to give the ball to say, take me to the promised land? Goran Dragic's a decent player. But the bottom line is, D-Wade obviously is getting ready to retire. I'm going to go down there to see him his last game there. You just look around, and Miami has decent players. Not scrubs, decent players. But no difference makers.
Yeah. That's what I've been saying, man. Honestly, bro, I think we need a trade. We can't keep going with these players that are already 30-something years old with these high contracts. We need to trade them. Listen, I would dump Whiteside and go after Zubac. Yo, we would save so much money there. Whiteside's being getting paid over 20-something mil a year.
Let me ask you a question. Why are you going to talk about dumping? You talk about dumping Whiteside. You couldn't give him away. You wouldn't take Whiteside. Nobody would take Whiteside right now. He's falling off the mat. He hasn't recovered since MB got in his face, talked trash to him, and then dogged him on the court. Gotta run. Appreciate the call. Baron, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Stephen A, how you doing today?
I'm all right.
Die-hard Raider fan.
Yes.
I wanted to get your take on the Raiders trying to replace Mac, picking up Trent. and the Raiders picked up Brown.
Well, you buffered your offensive line. You buffered your offensive line. You definitely got, listen, by buffering your offensive line and getting an all-world wide receiver like Antonio Brown, you know what they're doing, right? They're giving Derek Carr everything they think he needs, so he has no excuses. That's what they're really doing. That's what they're really doing.
I still think they need to pick up a diehard quarterback in this draft.
Well, again, a lot of people feel that way, but if they believe in Derek Carr, then they may go in a different direction. I personally think it's a decent shot that Haskins goes number 4 to the Raiders or number 5 to Tampa before the Giants would be able to grab him at 6. That's my personal belief.
Absolutely. And if Gruden is the coach that he says, I believe he's going to pick up that quarterback because he's got to have somebody just in case Carr goes down.
All right. Well, we're about to see, man. Thanks a lot for the call. I appreciate it. Let's go to Jason. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Jay? Real quick.
Hey, Jay. Hey, Stephen A.
How are you?
What are your thoughts on Randall Cobb?
I think it's an upgrade. Listen, I think he's an upgrade from Cole Beasley. I do think so. I think that Cole Beasley, he wasn't beating anybody. Listen, Cole Beasley was serviceable. He could catch passes in the slot or whatever, but he doesn't. I don't think that he has the resume that Randall Cobb has. And Randall Cobb may have aged, but I like him. And you combine that with Jason Witten, I like the things that Dak Prescott is going to be able to do with Amari Cooper, with Ezekiel Elliott, and with that defense giving him ample opportunities to have his hands on the ball because they're going to be able to make stops. So as much as I despise Dallas Cowboy fans because they're the most disgusting, nauseating fan base in American history, I can't stand them. Christmas is every time they're miserable. The fact of the matter is the Dallas Cowboys themselves are looking like a very formidable team right now. I'm not sleeping on them. Got to get on out of here. Just to remind y'all to have a lovely weekend watching the first round of the NCAA tournament, first weekend of the NCAA tournament. I've got Duke, Gonzaga, Tennessee, and North Carolina meeting in the Final Four. Duke and North Carolina for the national championship. Carolina winning it. I'll talk to y'all Monday. Until then, peace and love.
Hey, what's up? It's Will Kane. Coming up right after Stephen A. Hey, what's up? It's Will Kane. Coming up right after Stephen A. Smith.